This is a higher Unit 1 NAB, it's Outcome 2. Okay, we've got 4 questions to answer here, and we require 6 marks out of 8 to pass. Right, let's see the first question. So what I have over here, I have a function y f of x, okay, a function. And what I have to do on separate diagrams, I've got 2 diagrams, I've just drawn the axes in, and from there I'm going to sketch the graphs that I've got here, okay. So what I've got here is a 2 plus f of x, and what that's going to do, that 2 there, all it's going to do is going to lift the graph up. So it's lifting the graph up by 2. Remember, if that was a negative, if that was a minus 2 that was there, then what it would do is it would lower the graph. So that's all that's going to do. Shape's going to remain the same, but I'm moving up by 2 places in the y direction. Right then, so the first thing I can see is a point of inflection at 0, 0. I'm going to move that up to 0, 2. Okay, so there's 1, and there's 2. Okay, so that's where my point of inflection is going to be, this one here. Okay, I see here I've got 1 minus 2, and I'm lifting that up the way, so lifting that up from 1 minus 2, 2 up in the y direction will take me up here, and that's going to take me to 1. Okay, so that point there is going to be 1, 0. This point here is going to be 0, 2. The shape's going to remain the same, so what I'll do is I'll just draw down to here. I've got my point of inflection just coming along here. I'm going to come back down the way. I'm going to have a minimum turning point here and back up the way to there. So similar shape to the one up above. The key thing is that I'm putting in the points that are required, and I'm getting the shape correct, the transformation correct. Okay then, let's look at that. Was part A, and I should be getting 2 marks for that. So next one I've got is I have to draw the graph of minus f of x. So if I've got a negative f of x, what that's going to do for me, it's going to reflect it in the x-axis. So I know I'm going to have the graph looking upside down compared to what it's starting at. So if I'm going to reflect in the x-axis, I'm going to look at this point. That's going to remain the same because it's right on the x-axis there. So I'm going to have a point 0, 0. That's still going to be there. What I've got here is the point 1 minus 2. So what that's going to do is I'm going to reflect that over the x-axis, and what that will do is that will take it up from the 1 minus 2 to 1, 2. So I'm going to go up 2 places here. So that will take me up to here, and that point there will be the point 1, 2. This is part B. Okay, so what I have is the points. That's the only points that I really know. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do an upside down version of this curve, going through the points that I've got here. So instead of starting up at the top, starting at the bottom, coming through the origin, I'm going to have a point of inflection, so it's going to then just start coming down to here. I'm going to have a turning point here, and from there up that way there. So this curve here is just an upside down version of that one, and that should be enough to get me my marks. So I'll show you how this question's marked first of all. What we've got is we've got 1 mark for the transformation. So the 1 mark there for really moving the graph upwards by 2 places. And the other mark comes along where I do my coordinates. So the 2 coordinates, that's the mark there. The mark for part B, I've got 2 marks again. So 1 for making sure I transform the graph correctly, so I turn it upside down, and I state the coordinates, okay? So that's 2 marks for each of these. When you're doing this type of question, make sure you look at all different types of movement that we've studied on the course, because it doesn't necessarily mean because I'm doing this practice that these are the only ones that are going to happen for you. Make sure you're conversant in all the ways the graphs can move. Right, let's move on to question number 5. Okay, so question 5. The curve with the equation y is equal to 3 to the power of x passes through the point 2, 9. Usually you'll get a graph with this, so that would show me that would be an exponential graph, okay? If the curve y equals a to the power of x passes through the point 1, 7, find the value of a. So from here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to start by writing down the equation that I'm going to be beginning with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute x is equal to 1 and y is equal to 7. And that just comes straight from the coordinates that I'm given here. So if y is equal to 7, so I'm going to put a 7 at this side, is equal to, it's a that I'm trying to find out, and x is 1. So what I know there is that a to the power of 1 is equal to 7, so from there a must equal 7. So the new equation will be y is equal to 7 to the power of x. Okay, that's that question complete. The main part that you're going to get for the mark here is going to be this one here, as long as you're stating that a is equal to 7. If you just write that, just write down the number 7, you're going to gain no marks for that. That's not good enough. Okay, and you don't need to put it into the formula. Okay, so next part we're going to do is we're going to write down the inverse of the function y is equal to 10 to the power of x. So if I was thinking about 10 to the power of x, what that would look like would be a function that would be going from here. It would be an exponential graph. Okay, so that one there would be 10 to the power of x. Okay, key point there would be running through 1 in the y direction. Okay, and another key point there, because it's a 10, would be running through 110. Right, so if I look at the inverse of this, the inverse of it would be a reflective graph on the y is equal to x line. And usually what you'll be given that in the NAB, and what that should look like is something like that there. And what you really should know for 1 mark is that the inverse of an exponential graph like that there is going to be a log graph. So it's going to be log to the base 10 x. Okay, key points there will be 1, and there will be a point along here that will be a reflection on that one, will be 10, 1. Okay, so the key thing here is for 1 mark is making sure that you write down the full equation of the inverse function. Do not write down log 10x. That there will not give you any marks, so that there is wrong. Okay, so be very careful and don't write down y is equal to log x. Okay, that there again will give you no marks. Must be saying y is equal to log to the base 10x. Okay, last question here, it's a composite function question. So the first mark that we're going to get is we're going to be looking for an expression for f g of x. Okay, so I'm going to start with that. Usually just write that down. From there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute the g of x function, which is this one here, into there. So that's going to give me x minus 1. And I'm looking for 1 mark for that. Right, so next part I'm going to do is I'm going to be looking at the f of x function, and wherever I see x there, I'm going to substitute in x minus 1 into there. Not taking that and putting that into here. I'm taking this part and putting it into there. Okay, so what I should get from there is 2 minus 3, and instead of x, I'm going to put in x minus 1. What we'll then do is I'll just multiply that out, gather the numbers up, and that should be the question complete. Okay, so on this one here, it's out of 2 marks. I'm going to gain 1 mark for getting this part here correct. I'll get the next mark when I substitute in and make sure I complete the composite function. Okay, so what we're looking for here in this outcome, out of 8, and you need 6. So just remember that it's your responsibility to ensure that you're ready to sit the NAB, and you know it's really important to pass it. So practice it, be prepared, and make sure that we get through the NAB without any trouble. Good luck.